there were three things that you mentioned about, that this life is a
I'm
dream.
keywording on sleep, so.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Well, this life is a dream. It's just about 5 sentences up from your ending.
okay. Um,
The spiritual is this something, and then this life is a dream.
yeah, life is but a dream, like the old row your boat. Hey, there's a fundamental basis for that. Okay. Spirit is waking life, is
Yeah,
what you're
yes,
talking about.
uh-huh.
Matter is sleeping
Can you
life.
say it slowly again? Spirit
Okay.
is.
Okay. Let me start from the very beginning of
Okay.
this. Okay. From science. Okay. I didn't say this, but from science we derive the fundamental notion that matter is unspiritual. From religion, the notion that spirit is immaterial. From neither science nor religion, then, can we ever get the great idea that spirit is waking life and matter is sleeping life, that we humans are dreaming life, that life is one, and that all is life, ever evolving under the rule of law inherent in the whole. I kind of skipped through that quote just
Right.
now, but that's the
So the
more
more
full
real
quote.
life is in the spiritual realm, and this is an illusion. This is
Matter
a
is not an
fantasy.
illusion, but we are in an illusion because we're twixt. As I don't think I quoted Shakespeare,
Twilight.
but Shakespeare quoted had a twixt. We're twixt between, if you will. I'll find the Shakespeare quote if I can flip through and see it. I'll bring it out. But we're between the two, okay, and that's where all the confusion occurs, which is important for our development. I mean, we're here to develop ourselves while we're trying to help and teach others. Uh, Bottom line is self-development, but we only properly develop ourselves through efforts to help and teach others. Yeah. Yes.
So, are you saying, or is it this notion that we're both a spirit and substance
Now we are.
in incarnation? So you're saying the spirit is not in ascendancy, so we're not fully awake.
Yes.
Our human side, which is the material side, is not separate from it, but we consider it separate from it,
Got it.
and that is the sleeping side.
Yep.
But it's not fully asleep because it's conjunction in us.
Yep.
So we're in dreaming life in the sense that when we go to sleep at night, that's the real life of the soul. Because we're
In deep sleep.
in deeper sleep, we're in the
Well,
land
we
of the gods.
don't know when
and
we
we
wake
don't
up.
know,
Yeah.
when we wake up, we don't know where we have been or what we were doing. But it is stated that this life is a reflection of that.
Our material guard is down when we're in deep sleep because our physical bodies are asleep. Our mind is not keeping us from these thoughts anymore. So we are at the banquet of the gods. It said we are in a full spiritual life for while we are in deep sleep. That's the student's understanding.
So the illusion then comes from the intellectual mind.
Yes.
It presents itself to the consideration as if it knows it or it's the totality of it. Whereas we need the divine mind to enlighten the intellectual mind for the elusive aspect to be opened up, the veil to remove itself so that we can see clearly through the veil.
Correct. The intellectual mind can be very important in understanding all this stuff. But unless we have that element that you just spoke of as the overriding, the overarching principle, we'll go astray for sure.
So each human being then is self-generated and
Yes.
self-elected according to what you just said. Because you said that the few that come forward to do real work after having gone through the first misconception, which is going after powers, and the second, which is becoming a guru having a following, in other words, rather than pointing to the source where you're getting your information from that is sustaining you,
Mm-hmm.
having realized that, and then you say, okay, I want to have the courage and the clarity of mind to go back to the fundamentals
Absolutely.
with the intent to serve and not give in to those tendencies in me, then you become a real student
That's correct.
in masters of school.
That's correct.
Philosophy. Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said in a few different words, but gets the meaning across very clearly in a few seconds.
So we have a long way to go then.
Well, in our perception, we have a long way to go. But it's also, you have to remember that that we can struggle on and on, like we think we're not getting anywhere, and all of a sudden, light comes. Einstein, for example, in developing the theory of relativity, had struggled for years, for a long time. He was working as, I think, a postal clerk at the time. And he said, wow, God let me have a little glimpse into his kingdom. And he started writing. And we are still benefiting from what he wrote in a matter, this student understands, of about a week. And scientists are still figuring out the importance of what he did to this day, 100 years later.
Does that mean that it is all a matter of consciousness? That the waking life spirit can be realized by the human who exists in a dreaming life form, or state of consciousness. So the human that's in a dreaming life, like, can wake up, can reach a consciousness level of waking life through, through knowledge, of course, but the it's like you said about Einstein. I mean, it's like he reached a point where a light went off or something, and it opened up a whole waking life for him. So our existence is about the struggle or the path towards waking up.
Absolutely. And the Mahatmas and the adepts are out there that I was thinking about them as you were making your comment. They are there to show us that it can be done, because they are fully awake even though they're in the body, and that is our wonderful inheritance, that we all can achieve that. I think. Did I pick it up?
Yeah, exactly. I guess my question, based on what you just said, is what is the price? What is the actual price of the inheritance? If
Well,
yeah.
to give an example, now HPB never said she was in that category,
Mhm.
but she is a good one to illustrate. She suffered tremendously on this earth because everybody came after her. I mean, she was slandered, and Mr. Judge, who was an attorney, had to defend her. She was finally vindicated, but her physical body suffered tremendously, and she had left her physical body by the time she was vindicated. So she left, even she not only got persecuted while she was here, she was persecuted until after she was gone, to get this message out. Many of the great ones that come before us, the story of Jesus in the Bible, many of them pay a tremendous price for walking this walk. And just because we don't say, hey, I'm going to get there, we have more challenges once we get there. That's the way this student sees it anyway. We are just being prepared for greater things. Andra?
Well, I was just going to say, I wonder in her particular situation, divinity, destiny, maybe designed that life maybe for her, so that if we say that ego, there's that difficulty of becoming a guru, that it sort of ensured that there wouldn't be an ego expansion, because it was so difficult for her to get the message out, so maybe it was one of those things that was a blessing, even though it was a very difficult circumstance. It's crushing to one's ego not to be validated for the truth that you're bringing forth to the world.
If I understand you correctly, I think what you're saying is, and this student was thinking while you were saying that, HPB was smart enough to understand that there are certain charges that she couldn't defend herself against, because she was a messenger of the masters. She was a messenger of the masters, and she knew what people would take and what they would not take. She invited people into their homes knowing that they were going to turn against her. But yeah, it's a high price that you pay, and I kind of lost what you were asking about, but that's kind of the idea that there's limitations even that the people who know better can do while they're in physical bodies. That's why the adepts will, they can show us the way, or she could show us the way, but we have to learn the way ourselves. And maybe somebody else can give some better justice to what Andrew just said.
The chair actually mentioned it, but in that kind of position, selflessness is what is exhibited.
Exactly.
You can't stand up for yourself. You have no rights. You promise and you take this oath to serve. You will serve as the inner guide provides the means, with no questions asked, none whatsoever. And HPV says in one of her articles that the masters have explained it to her at the beginning when she was asked if she was willing to do this task. And she said she understood it, she was willing to accept it, and she says, I wear my karma on my sleeve. It is so apparent. So she says, as the representatives of the masters, because they were physically visible, everything fell on their head. Even the people who had come in to serve abandoned the promise they had made. And once that promise is given, it cannot be taken back. That's also a law of nature. And we are reminded not to make promises if we are not able to keep them. Only promise what you can do, not what you are not able to do. So that's also law, that once you put that and it's recorded, then you follow it. She gave her word. She says, the only reason I'm successful at occultism is because my eye has been turned to the east, and since then it has never left its focus. Masters. She gave her word to the masters, and she kept it. And that's why she was able to go through it. She said, I'm in pain physically during the day, and at night I am in mental pain for the woes of humanity. When you become part of that one self, then the sorrows of humanity also you feel in your heart. And you cannot abate it. Everyone has to feel that effect of their own karma. That they cannot remove. Each human being has to do it for themselves.
And there are those who came into her for mentorship, who let the human nature get in charge. They learned a lot and made contributions to theosophy, but in the end they turned against her when
They went
the
psychic.
rubber hit the road. They went psychic. They were considered psychic, so who are not really,
Spiritual.
Spiritual.
Psychic is personal.
You have to be spiritual, or it's going to backfire on you.
Yeah, the spiritual is service to the all, never yourself. You're not in that equation in the sense that you come first. It's not there anymore. You have become selfless. In ours, you're part of the all. But when we turn psychic, that self interjects itself into it. Then you're again that thing that you think you had gotten rid of, the power and that incipient underlying that you are now this person of knowledge, me, that interjects itself. When you do not expect it, it puts its head in there. And if people come and out and say, I'm the teacher, then we know that they're not the teacher, except the one that had a seal on her finger of the master. She had a ring with the seal of the master on it. Well, we all have to judge, for ourselves. But to put ourselves under other people's jurisdiction is not what she recommends. She says that the inner is there, that this is what we are trying to reach. Turn inside and try to perceive who and what you are, because thou art that.
Thou art that. We have to understand the path before we try to understand the teacher, because we go willy-nilly following teachers, people who claim to be teachers. We're going to go wrong.
Because there are a lot of even societies out there, every one of them saying that they're the messengers of this philosophy, and they don't teach the real stuff. There was 40,000 changes made to the initial secret doctrine that she had brought out. If R.C., Robert Crosby, had not reinitiated the process in 1909, we would not have this
We
literature
wouldn't have it.
today.
It was out of print.
It was out of print, and all these changes that had been made was promulgated through 40,000. I thought it was 4,000, and I had to look again. I'm looking into a little bit of the background of the philosophy and how it was changed, and this is how it is done.
And it was being published under HPB as the author.
But with her
with no intellectual
no
qualifications
or any kind, with all these changes. In other words, she assumed the teacher didn't know it, and she made all the changes in the book, and is now being given out to the world as if it was from HPB.
No, I was going to ask you. You mean she assumed that the teacher didn't? In other words, the person who did this, whoever it was.
She was a Monday morning quarterback for
okay,
HPB.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
leave it alone.
Okay.
Okay. So you're saying that, because I was going to say, why were these changes made? Did the person or the people feel that there wasn't enough shared, or they're giving their own interpretation?
Exactly.
They wanted to simplify it,
No,
or
not simplify it. They thought that the teacher didn't write it correctly.
Properly.
Even though it came from the masters, they assumed that they had now reached a higher position than the teacher, and they were correcting her mistakes. Amazing. Just amazing.
Amazing.
I'm now looking a little bit into it since these misconceptions have come to my attention, because this is a real danger for the students of theosophy, to think that we have come or gone someplace with it. And this is a real danger. We can fall. And then all the other...
Most of us do fall for that reason too. We have to get up and go again,
and the other thing is that the portal schools, that help that is given for charity, for the benefit of all, and what little you can do for the world out there, when that portal is shut behind you, then you're left cold in the world, no guidance from within, no guidance anywhere, because you're not listening to your inner voice. You're left cold in the world with your psychic intelligence, and that's when we go wrong.
Like Mama always said, don't let your conscience be your guide, and if you don't listen to your conscience, it's going to subside.
And he gave me an article.
I like that.
He gave me an article where it says, your inner conscience tells you what not to do, but it never tells you what to do. Just like in the Gita, where Krishna is advising Arjuna all through the 18 chapters as to the philosophy, how to learn it. But in the end he says, do as seems best unto you. He doesn't tell Arjuna, I'm telling you to do this, because that's the inheritance of each human being, the choices that we have to make. Whether it be good or bad, the outcome is ours, but that our choice must never be interfered with. That's how we learn. But this is a real danger. Herb comes up with these wonderful things, and I have to learn them for myself. After he gives
Herb did not write any of this. He just stood up here and basically read pieces of the articles that he found.
It showed the misconceptions of Christianity. It showed the misconception of the Hindu religion. It shows the misconception of popular Buddhism. It brings it right through. It's wonderful the way it came across. I had never heard it that way before. You made it so suck in. Now it's all in my mind. I know why they went wrong.
So why are we going to go wrong?
Well, I just said it. Power, and then establishing yourself as a guru with a following. Then those two things are no-nos. Then you know you have definitely gone wrong, because you're using your psychic energy.
Or following, I think you just said following somebody, not really knowing why you follow them.
Well, then you're giving your choice away, is what that is. Well, this student, I hopes that never occurs, because from this up, would not trust anybody else's mind but my own. That's why I never ever could copy anything from anyone else or cheat, because I trusted my own mind as being superior to the other people's mind. I knew where I was within myself. I didn't know where the other people were. I gave information, but I would not take it.
So why do we have to develop discrimination? Because we can all help each other, but you then by the same, but you copy somebody else's good traits.
Yes.
It requires discrimination to do that.
Yes, and here you said that once you kind of go out to help other people, that the lame and the incapacitated and the poor, they're all going to come towards you. And this is students say, but why is this happening to me? Every time I was standing in front of the shoppers or Safeway, somebody would come and say, do you have a $10 bill? Can you buy me some groceries? I'm thinking, why on earth is this happening to me? Do I have something written on my forehead? And this is what it is. Are you going to become tired? You said this too, Oleg, that people approach you for help. And you have to use your own conscience to say, yes, I can help. But with discrimination. And
But
Josh
sometimes
said
you
to
don't
me,
help them in the way they want to be. They say they want to be helped.
Josh said to me,
You have to
people
really
come
help
to
them.
me too. But what I propose to do is, what is it you need? And I take them in the grocery store and I buy it for them. I thought, wow, that's so much better. And Jason said to me, Mom, we were going in the restaurant and this guy came and said, can you please help me with my meal? So they took him in and bought him a dinner. That, I think, is a superior idea, to treat them equal and help them that way. I used to just take the money and give it, but they gave me a better option.
Well, HPV said that the best form of charity is one-on-one, and that
is what
approach is
they are
one-on-one.
doing.
I'll tell you something very funny, and it's right apropos of what you said. I was having lunch, this was in Myrtle Beach, with a friend who's also very spiritual. She's a wonderful person. And we were approached by this woman who said she needed money to be able to buy food and to pay for her motel with her child, etc. Anyway, so we both rose to the occasion. We said, we'll take you into the grocery store. But what was so funny is she brought us some food to buy, and I said, look at the ingredients. I said, you can't eat this. I said, this is not healthy, and I wouldn't buy it. I said, I pulled out something else, and she looked at me, and she was all set to buy all this stuff that was so unhealthy. And I took her through the grocery store. I said, this is better. Don't buy this anymore.
So she got groceries and she got an education. So she needed that probably as much as she needed food.
Your teaching was necessary. But this is what I'm saying. You ask, why is this experience coming to me? Do I have something written up here? And here it is today. I found the answer. That these people will be attracted to you. As you're attracted to theosophy, so attracted to you because of your affinity
Yeah.
to this side of nature.
Yeah, but I wanted to, you just said that charity makes sense on a one-to-one basis, but what about service? Does service makes also sense on a one-to-one versus serving humanity as a whole? Because the issue of karma, we were
Yeah.
discussing the Hindus have this extreme case when you don't want to intervene in karma, so you just do nothing.
Well, that's
Right.
not right either.
It's extreme,
That's what,
so
that's what he
but
said.
there's another
Omission is
extreme-
worse than
There's another
commission.
extreme when you blindly try to serve everyone and you break, become a bull in a china shop, and you instead of you're blinded by your service desire to serve, which actually it's borders on the ego,
That's
self-aggrandizement.
negative too.
That's
So you
pro-
have-
that's bad.
Yeah, you
You
have
have
to
to
find
use a
something in
balance.
between the balance.
Balance.
The question is, what is that criteria? How do you decide when do you intervene and serve, and when do you abstain from action?
Okay.
Discrimination.
That is a
You-
question.
everybody
This
has to
is
develop
student-
that discrimination.
Yeah, we all have to do it, but this student asks, is there a real need? What? Suppose somebody comes to you and say, look, I have a very old car. Can you buy me a new car? Well, you're going to go get them a new car? They already have one that works. So what is that asking you to do? You have to use your discrimination. So, for instance, if there's a general request, say, this student gives this example all the time. There was a request for blankets for the women in Afghanistan who were in the open air and they had nothing to warm themselves up with, and there was not any blankets to be provided for them. Red Cross didn't have it, they all ran out. So this request went to the general public. I immediately said, I would like to help. Because I'm a woman, I'm a mother, and these are women with kids, and they don't have anything to warm themselves or rub the child with something. So in those cases, I use my discriminative power and say, I'm going to contribute. They said, contribute to this, and she actually, I saw her some months later, she showed up on Oprah show. She was legitimate.
Mhm.
She was saying that she was representing the Afghan refugees and that this was a real need and that they could do it more efficiently because they're going to gather all of the blankets and take it there. So I contributed to that effort. You have to use your own judgment is what I'm saying. But this other stuff, the example I gave, this happened to me year after year after year after year until I learned, oh, it's an opportunity.
It is an
to
opportunity to
serve.
serve.
I was looking
Now-
at this as a hindrance. Why should she come to me? What is this? Why am I doing it?
Okay, our hour is
That
well
was
past
the-
up.
My
but you-
orientation had to change about that.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
Our hour is well past up. I have one more announcement, and then we're going to stop for this session. The first and third Sundays, this being the first Sunday, we have a group study on a particular topic. This series we're going through studying the Bhagavad Gita, and we're going to have a short break for snacks, etc., and start our study. And we can continue our discussion during the break. Thank you.